Hey there. Today I'm going to go over the first 11 SAT problems on a practice test. These are the easier ones, so if you're more advanced, you probably don't need to watch this video. Maybe it'll help you a little bit. Anyway, let's start with number 1. I'm going to move my face so that you can see better, so that I have more room to work. And let's start with number 1. So number 1 is pretty much testing, can you find a point on a graph? It's asking what is the intersection between the nonlinear line and the linear line. So a linear line is a straight line, a nonlinear line is a curved line. And we need to know what the x and y axis. I was taught this one time, the x-axis can be held up by the x, whereas the y-axis the y would not hold up an x, like the letter x. And then the y-axis is the vertical axis. And so to find the x value, we'd see how many ticks we go over. And we want to find the solution to these two lines. So the solution is where they intersect. And so for this specific problems, the intersection line, we find with the x value first, so that would be 1, 2, 3, 4 over to find the x value, and then the other intersection point would be 5 up. And it's written in alphabetical order, x and then y. And so our x value would be 4, our y value would be 5. And that is the solution to those two problems. Those two, the linear and the nonlinear line. Okay. Number 2. On the first day of a semester, a film club has 90 members each day. After the first day of the semester, 10 new members join the film club. If no members leave the film club, how many total members will the film club have 4 days after the first day of the semester? So we want to come up with an algebraic equation for this problem. On the first day we have 90 members. And let's represent days after with the variable d. So on the first day we have 90 members, and then after 1 day, I like to do a sanity check and just think of 1 day in the future as opposed to what it's asking, which is 4 days in the future, 4 days after the first day of the semester. So in 1 day, we'll have 100 members. And so I want to come up with an equation where we replace the d with a 1 and we get to 100. So 90 plus 10 times d equals, and so if we replace the d with a 1, we would have 90 plus 10 times 1, which is 10, and 90 plus 10 is 100. And so I like to do this sanity check just to make sure that I got the equation correct. And now what they're asking for is 4 days after, so we're going to replace this d with a 4. So 90 plus 10 times 4. 10 times 4 is 40. And 40 plus 90 equals 130. And that is the answer to number 2. For number 3, this is also sort of a memorization problem. We want to know where that line crosses the y, what is the y-intercept of that line? And so it's a little confusing, but you want to look for that arrow at the top and where it crosses that y, that's the y-intercept. That arrow at the top represents it, and this is your x. And so wherever that line crosses the y-intercept, you don't want to go 1 over. This would be your y-intercept. And so remember, we write x comma y, And if you're looking for the y-intercept, your x is always going to be 0, because right here your x value is 0, and then your y value in this case is 8. And that's your answer. That's your y-intercept. For number 4, we have a system of equations, and we're trying to find r comma s. And so we have s plus 7r equals 27, and then we have r equals 3. Now, there's a few different ways to do systems of equations, but for this one we have r already isolated, and so the easiest way for this to do this one is the substitution method. And so we know r is equal to 3 from this equation, and so we just substitute the 3 into the r and then solve for s. So we have s plus 7, and we're going to take that, since we know r is equal to 3, we're going to take that 3 and replace the r with that, and then it's equal to 27. 7 times 3. So the first step of solving this equation is evaluate the multiplication. So 7 times 3 is 21. That's going to be added to s equals 27. And so the way I like to solve algebraic equations is whatever is being done to the variable. So you're trying to isolate the s. You're trying to get the s by itself. And so the way to do that is whatever is being done to the s, you do the opposite to both sides of the equal sign. So what's being done to s in this case? 21 is being added to it. And so the opposite of adding 21 is subtracting 21. And we do that to both sides. 21 minus 21 is 0. So you could put plus 0, but you don't need to put plus 0 because s plus 0 is equal to s. So we just write s, and now we have it isolated. And 27 minus 21 is 6. And that's our answer. And so we're looking for the r comma s as it's stated. And so our r value is going to be 3, and our s value is going to be 6, which is B. Okay. So next problem, number 5. So we have x and f of x. Don't let f of x confuse you. It's just like writing the y value. So we have an x value and a y value. And we have -1 and then 0, 1 and 2, 16, 17, 18, and 19. Which of the following is the best description of the function f? So remember, a linear equation is a straight line. So a linear equation has an equal increment in between each value. So if we look at this, and then an exponential function is going to be a curved line, it's not going to have an equal value in between each increment. So first we look at the x and make sure it's in order. So we're adding 1, we're adding 1, we're adding 1. And so that's a straight line. And then for the y value, we're doing the same thing. 16 plus 1 is 17, and it's an equal value in between each increment. So make sure the x's are equal, and then the y's are equal, and then you could tell that it's definitely linear. Is it increasing or is it decreasing? It's going up in value from left to right. and so it's increasing in value, and so B would be your answer. Okay. Next we have number 6. The graph of a system of linear equations is shown. The solution of the system is x comma y. What is the value of x? And so remember, the solution is where the two lines intersect. And they're just asking us for the x value in the question. And so you look at where they intersect and you figure out what the x value is of that. So the x is the horizontal line. And we go over 4 increments to find where it intersects. And so your x value would be 4. The next one is sort of a memorization problem as well, number 7. They want you to remember what the range is. And so the range is the largest number minus the smallest number. And so make sure you look at each number individually, because they might try to trick you and put not list the numbers in order. In this case, it is listed in order, and your largest number is 52, and then your smallest number is 22. Or 23, my bad. Is 23. And so we just subtract that. Take 1 from here, put it here. Got 9. 4 minus 2 is 2. And 29 would be your range. All right, home stretch. Number 8. This is a geometry problem. So we have 2 parallel lines. I know those aren't perfect. And we have a transversal going through them. So when you have a transversal going through 2 parallel lines, every other angle is going to be equivalent to each other. Is going to be equal to each other. So this angle will be equal to not the one next to it, but the one after it, every other angle. And so this one will not be equal to this one, but the next one. This one will not be equal to this one, but the next one. And then same thing with the other ones. This angle will not be equal to this one, but the next one. You can go in any order too. This one will not be equal to this one, but the next one. This one will not be equal to this one, but the next one. And so they're telling us that this angle is 145 degrees, and they're asking what this angle is. And so, since this is 145 degrees, not this one, but the next one is going to be equal to it. So they're both 145 degrees. And so your answer will be C for this one. Okay, number 9. Okay, so the equation x plus y equals 1,440. Represents the number of minutes of daylight between sunrise and sunset, x, and the number of minutes of non-daylight, y. Or minutes of daylight is x, and then the number of minutes of non-daylight is y. And so can you figure out what 1,440 represents? That'd be how many hours in a day? It's 24 times 60 minutes, and 24 times 60 is 1,440. And so we got x is our daylight hours and y is our night hours. All right, so a particular day in Oak Park, Illinois, that information is not necessary. That's just extra information and you can ignore that. This day has 670 minutes of daylight. How many minutes of non-daylight does it have? So we have 670 plus y equals 1,440. And so we want to get y by itself. And so what's being done to y? 670 is being added to y. And so what's the opposite of adding 670? Subtracting 670. Just going to do this by hand. 1440 minus 670. 0. I'm going to take 1 from here and put it here. 7 minus 14 is 7. And then 13 minus 6 is also 7. And so y equals 770. So your answer would be B. Only 2 more problems and then it starts to get a little bit more difficult. Okay, so for number 10, Scott selected 20 employees at random from all 400 employees at a company. He found that 16 of the employees in this sample are enrolled in exactly 3 professional development courses this year. Based on Scott's finding, which of the following is the best estimate of the number of employees at the company who are enrolled in exactly 3 professional development courses this year? So we have 400 employees at the company, and Scott selected 20 employees. And 16 out of 20 of those employees are in 3 professional classes. And so we want to know how many, so using that we want to project it to 400 employees. And we want to search for X. And so this is a simple problem. There's a lot of ways to solve this problem. I like to use cross multiplication. But before we do cross multiplication, we can reduce this number. We can reduce all the numbers actually. But let's just reduce this one. So 16 divided by 20. So what number goes into 16 and 20 evenly? That's right, 4. So it's like multiplying 1/4 on the top and 1/4 on the bottom. So 1/4 divided by 1/4 is 1, and that's why you're able to do this, because that it's just like multiplying by 1. And so we're changing the version of 16 over 20 to a more simple version. So 16 times 1/4 is 16 divided by 4 is 4. 20 divided by 4 is 5. And what we're left with is 4 divided by 5 equals x over 400. Now we want to cross multiply these. What that means is 5 times x equals 4 times 400, 1600. Now we have 5x equals 1600. We want to get that x by itself. What is being done to the x? It's being multiplied by 5. So you want to do the opposite of that, which is dividing by 5. And so 5 divided by 5 is 1. So we could write 1x. But we don't have to write 1 times x, because 1 times x is equal to x. And then 1600 divided by 5. I don't have my calculator with me, so I'm just going to do it by hand real quick. 5 into 16 is 3. 3 times 5 is 15. Minus equals 1. I'm going to bring down the 0. And I'm just going to bring down both zeros, because I know 5 into 100 is 20. And so your answer is 320. Okay. And one more problem. Number 11. and then we start to get into the more difficult questions. So 4x minus 28 equals negative 24. What is x minus 7? So let's just find x, and then at the end make sure you do x minus 7 at the end. And this is pretty much testing your ability to add and subtract positive and negative numbers. I have a specific video on that, so I'm not going to go into it too much on this, but if you need it, please watch that video. So 4x minus 28 equals negative 24. We want to get the x by itself. So what is being done to x? It's being multiplied by 4, and 28 is being subtracted from it. So the 4 times x is very intertwined. It's very close to the x. And so it's easier to do the adding and subtracting first. So the opposite of subtracting 28 is adding 28. So we're going to add 28 to both sides. So negative 24 plus 28 is the same as saying 28 minus 24, which is 4. And then negative 28 plus 28 is 0, and we don't need to write that again. So now we're left with 4 times x equals 4. So what is being done to x now? It's being multiplied by 4. What's the opposite of multiplying by 4? Dividing by 4. So make sure you do that to both sides of the equations. 4 divided by 4 is 1, and we don't need to write that 1. 1 times x is x, and then 4 divided by 4 is also 1, and we do need to write that one. But remember, we're looking for x minus 7. So now 1 minus 7 equals, so the way I like to do these, you know this is going to be a negative answer because your negative number is bigger than your positive number. And so instead of doing 1 minus 7, it's kind of hard to think of. I do 7 minus 1, and that's way easier. 7 minus 1 is 6, and you know that answer is going to be negative. And so your answer is negative 6. And that is the first 11 questions. I hope that helps. You can reach me in the link below at Mark's Tutoring, markstutoring.com, or you can email me at markyhanna@gmail. And I hope that helped. If you need more tutoring service, make sure to contact me. And if this was enough for you, please look at my next video. Thanks for joining.